All right, y'all, we're going to get started. As I said that, literally we added 8 more people, 11 more people. It just keeps ticking up. That's a good thing, right? That's a good thing, I think. All right, let's get started, y'all. I'm Robby T, your host, today for the best scripts in real estate. It's kind of like the beginning of the class. We want to make sure you're in the right classroom. And I am super excited. Oh, I can see a thing in the chat here. Just want to make sure. All right, cool. Good. So y'all can hear me. What's up, Mike? Good to see you, buddy. And if I ever cut out or anything, just let me know. We know that technology things happen all the dang time. Anyways, I'm your host, Robby T, and I'm excited today because I get to talk about something I'm passionate about, which is the best scripts in real estate. But I think we need to start here, y'all. We need to not start with the scripts, the best things to say, the best questions to ask. Don't get me wrong, we're going to get there. I promise you, we're going to give you actionable takeaways, hopefully a few of them that are going to change the nature of your conversations. But we have to start here with your mindset. And I think there's 2 big things that we need to talk about in terms of mindset right now. The first is undoubtedly this. It's what mental state are you currently in? Let's just name it, y'all. The last 6 months in real estate has been tough. It has been difficult. Eric just told me that January in Fargo, January over January in terms of closed homes, we were down 40%. Most markets, what we've been seeing is they're trending down 20-ish to 30% in total homes sold. Now we're seeing a nice little bump now that people aren't as afraid of 5% interest rates. Obviously, there's a psychological conditioning process that has to happen there. But y'all, I totally understand and relate. The last 6 months has been tough. And I want to acknowledge for the last 6 months, the big thing we've been saying is that this is separation season. That over the last 6 months, heck, if you're still here today, you're probably one of the few, the proud, not the Marines, although God bless you guys. The few, the proud that have made it. You're still standing. You're still here. Let's talk about your mindset going forward, y'all. Here's what I know happens when things get tough is we start having negative messaging infect our mind. We get a little bit of that imposter syndrome. We get a little more fearful. And y'all, you know what we get a lot of? I can see a lot more pushiness, a lot more what I like to call, and I want you to write this down, is sales breath. You see, sales breath is any time that you are attached to the outcome. And this is the biggest thing that I want to make sure you guys walk away with today in terms of your mindset is, are you unattached to the outcome? Meaning, when you're having conversations, are you trying to find truth or are you pushing towards a sale? Everything I'm going to teach you today, the best scripts in the book, none of it matters. 0% of it matters if you are attached to the sale, because what will happen is you will subconsciously say and hear things that are disassociated from truth. We have to switch our mindsets to let go of the attachment to the outcome. What that simply means is that our North Star in our conversations, our North Star in our interactions with clients or leads has to be centered around what is this person's truth and what is in their best interest. Let's start there. That's regarding others, but let's also talk about yourself, y'all. Here's what I know happens when we see our income go down, and I don't know about y'all, but I'm seeing it. Mine comes down year over year. I made less in 2022 than I did in 2021. That's just the reality. That's the name of the game. And here's what I know happens is we also have bills to pay. Like I said earlier, we get a little bit of that imposter syndrome. Those news media articles hit us a little more in the face. We get a little more frustrated. We get a little more fearful, and man, it infects us. And here's what I know happens when that negative messaging takes hold is oftentimes we become bears. We go into a den and we hide. We cower up. It's kind of like people in Fargo in the winter. We get all cozy in our warm blanket to get comfortable. And y'all, this is the biggest thing that I've been seeing is there's two types of people right now. You have your bulls that are getting out there and doing the right things. And you have people that are praying that the market of yesterday comes back. Y'all, I'm going to speak truth to y'all for a moment. That market, the one where homes sold like that market's not coming back, y'all. We were playing basketball on that little Tykes hoop and we all thought we were MJ, and y'all, wake up. You weren't. And that game's not coming back. The hoop has been raised to 10 feet again, and you got to learn to play basketball again. We are in the transition, the end of the transition of separation season, where you have to gain the skills and find a way to win. In terms of your mindset, what this really comes down to is we have to build a moat around our mind. I want everybody to write that down. Build a moat around our mind. A moat, for those of you who don't know that aren't nerds like me, or maybe didn't read Robin Hood or learn about castles, things like that. A moat's purpose is very, very simple. It's to keep the bad guys out. Everybody should write that down. A moat's purpose is to keep the bad guys out. Now more than ever, y'all, it is crucially important that we're keeping unintentional thoughts, the bad guys, out of our mind, because they are infectious. And I don't know about you all, but when those things take grip, my motivation dips, my drive dips. I become more pessimistic, and I'm not the best version of myself. So what are you doing to build a moat around your mind? For me, I do a couple different things. First off, you have to stop doing things. What are those things that you're doing right now? Maybe the waking up in the morning and going and scrolling social media. I call that gambling with your mindset, y'all, because you have no idea what the news media is going to say. It could say great things. It could get you excited. Or if it's anything like the last 6 months, it's pending doom. The world is ending. And I don't know about you all, but the whole point of media is to sell something. It's selling views. That's how they make money. And I can't like capitalism when it serves me and dislike it when it doesn't serve me. That's just the game. But I know this, that media's purpose is not to tell me the things that are going to encourage me to be my best self. It is going to be the things that scare me, because things that scare me get me to come back over and over and over again. So what are you doing to build a moat around your mind? What are the things that you need to cut out of your life? You know it. I'm saying this, and you know your few things. Get rid of them. What are the things you need to be adding to your life? What is missing right now? Maybe it's going to the gym. So you are literally releasing chemicals in your mind and building strength and building mental fortitude. It's doing the things that maybe you haven't been doing. What are the things that you are wanting to add into your life? For me, one of the biggest things I've learned is every morning and every night before I go to bed, I say to myself a mantra. And y'all, I used to think that this stuff was just straight trash, garbage, that it was just the whole idea of like The Secret was stupid. And don't get me wrong, I will say it to whoever wrote The Secret, something, was it Rhonda Byrne? I don't remember her name, and all the others. There's a lot of correlation, not causation, in The Secret. But one of the greatest things I've learned about the mind is that the mind is a filter. It's the only way it's able to make sense of everything that we call the life experience. Here's what I mean by that. Think about us 10,000, 100,000 years ago as a species. We would travel small amounts. We would travel slowly. There was very little stimulus that we would encounter. Now think about today. Imagine walking down the street. You have stimulus everywhere, the cars, the noises, the movement, other people. Y'all, we used to not see other people. Now you take into account this thing right here. Whew. And you have access to stories and pictures and an unlimited amount of stimulus. Our minds weren't and have not adapted to this world yet. Our minds are not created for this. And the adaptation that our mind has utilized is it is constantly filtering out 90+%, if not more, of what you experience in every single moment, because you can't pay attention to it all. You'd be so exhausted. But here's what's really cool, y'all, is you can influence that filter. What you feed that filter, the thoughts and ideas you intentionally choose, shapes what's known as your RAS, your reticular activating system, RAS. And basically, if you want to see this at work, if you've ever bought a vehicle, let's say you bought, I don't know, for me, I bought a Lincoln Navigator last year. And of course, what do I see on the road everywhere now? Lincolns, especially Lincoln Navigators. It's not that there was more Lincoln Navigators on the road the day after I purchased mine, right? Of course, that's not the case. Although I would like it to be. I'd love to be a trendsetter like that. No, my brain just did not give a crap about them. Here's my point. I started telling myself a mantra. I started telling myself the words I wanted to become. I wanted to create guideposts for my thinking. And y'all, the more you intentionally think a thought, the more importance you assign to it, your brain allows more of that in and less of things that contradict it. Y'all, you need to be building a moat around your mind. The best scripts don't matter. The best questions don't matter if your mindset's screwed. You have to build a moat around your mind, and you got to build a drawbridge. What's the point of a drawbridge? To let the good guys in. Okay, that's enough on mindset. I want to end on one last piece. I know things have been gloomy and full of doom. We'll just call it doomy, I guess. I know things have been dark, but y'all, I am as optimistic as ever. And here's why. What I've seen over the last 6 months is a shedding of a lot of bad agents. If you are willing to invest in your mind and your skills, you have nothing to fear. If anything, this is your opportunity season, y'all. This is where you get to stand out and separate yourself from the jokers that have no skills. And I have one simple truth for you all. The game of real estate is not a sales game. It is an influence game. It's all about the ability to influence others. My goal today is very, very simple, is to give you some scripts, some questions that will help you build influence with others. I will say it very directly. None of this will matter if your mindset sucks. If your mindset is negative, you will see negativity. You will not win. If you are attached to the outcome, you will see things unclearly. It will be distorted. You will not win. If you are pushing and trying to get somebody to do something that is not in their best interest, you will screw yourself. There is this thing called the internet, and they will hold you accountable, y'all. Thank God for it. But if you are bought into this of letting go of the attachment to the outcome, infecting your mind with positive thoughts, positive ideas, building a moat around your mind, y'all, I think you should be as optimistic as ever. You see, I hated the market of the last 2 years because you didn't have to be good. Skills did not matter. In that fake market of yesterday, your skills did not mean almost anything. That sucks. It sucks for the consumer. It sucks for us that have the skills. I'm excited that the game is tough again. You need to shift your mind and stop wanting it to get easier. You need to shift your mind and start thinking, man, I want this to get tougher so I can separate myself. Do you think Michael Jordan wants to play basketball on that little Tykes hoop against me? No, because I could actually maybe score. I could dunk on that thing. Now you raise that thing up to 10 feet, raise the skill that is needed to be good. Michael Jordan's ecstatic because he doesn't have to play against jokers like me. That's got to be you. You all need to be the MJ of real estate. You got to get your mind right. So that's where we got to start. You can tell I'm fired up about this, by the way. All right, let's talk scripts. That's why you're all here. Scripts. First off, I hate that word. Man, I hate it. I really, really hate scripts, but marketing. Yes, we know what sells. If I say best questions to ask, I get half the people if I say best scripts. But y'all, I ain't going to tell you scripts. I'm going to tell you questions. And you could probably make the point that questions are a script. There's no doubt about it. What it really comes down to is this, y'all. I don't think people want to be sold. I think people want to be heard, understood, and valued. I think the amateur salesperson sells. I think the professional serves. What do I mean by this? First off, in our conversations, our North Star should be learning someone's truth. Tony Robbins says it best. If you want to influence someone, you need to find out what is already influencing them. For the people that I know that have coached and trained on this, y'all, setting appointments is not hard. Converting leads is not hard. Earning people's business is not hard. The people that have mastered what I'm about to teach you, their problem is not creating business. It's creating capacity to serve that business, which is a totally different problem. You see, it's really, really funny. When I went and studied the best salespeople in the world, those that could create a stupid amount of business, here's what I stumbled upon is none of them were selling. None of them were selling. Now, here's what I mean by selling. They're putting in the effort. Don't get me wrong. There's some of y'all that think, oh my gosh, things just fall into my lap. I don't have to do anything to earn business. I don't have to make calls. I don't have to have conversations. No, that's stupid. You got to put the effort in. But you weren't selling. You see, here's my definition of selling. Selling is you trying to get somebody to do something that they don't want to do. It's you trying to get them to buy a product. Y'all, here's what's really cool is we don't work in the sales industry unless you're building homes. We work in the service industry, y'all. Our job almost always is to find out what somebody needs, wants, and desires and help them get it. Yet, not enough of you are asking the questions or embracing the mindset to ask the right questions to find out what is it that they want. Let's talk about some flaws here. And let me tell a quick story. This is a little, not sales pitch, but a pitch to go check something out. I have something called the Leads Geeks podcast. Just recorded episode 3 with Matt McKenzie, who is the premier ISA in the United States. Unbelievably good. The premier ISA. And he's going to be co-hosting with me moving forward. And y'all, I asked him, it's really fun. I asked him, what are some reasons why people fail to convert leads? And he said he had 3 things, and in about 45 minutes, we only got through 1, which is a reason you need to check it out. And the big reason he said is, the big reason people don't convert leads, and I want everybody to write this down, is leads don't feel safe around you. People don't feel safe around you. They don't feel comfortable around you. You're scaring them. And Matt made this point that I think is so eloquent. It's when you're calling right away, or you texting somebody, if you were in their shoes and your introduction script sounds extremely salesy or pushy, what happens to your guard? Does it go up or down? So simple, yet so profound. So what do I think your introduction script needs to be? Well, let's talk first about my favorite lead source, which is pay-per-click leads. Because pay-per-click leads are like a fine wine, man. They get better with age. And I'm a big red wine fan. and they're pretty cheap compared to the other things. My introduction script to a PPC lead is almost always, you ready for this? Watch. I'm like, what? Hey, is Matt available? Or Matt? Question mark. Here's why I start this way. It's very, 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 very simple. First off, people will say, well, you shouldn't do that, Robby, because they could lie to you or they could say it's not them. And I think you all need to recognize that tonality is everything. If I say, is this Matt? Is Matt available? If I'm more direct and coarse, of course, I'm going to make people feel uncomfortable. If I say it very friendly, like, hey, is Matt available? Or, hey, is this Matt? People are a heck of a lot more likely to answer. But here's the big reason why I asked that question. What I found actually is when you say it like I just did, vast majority of the time, people will actually say yes. And the way they say yes is so informative. Here's what I mean by that. How do you think a high D answers that question? How do you think a high I answers that question? A high S or a high C? If you're not familiar with this, I'm referencing the DISC test, the DISC assessment. High Ds are very direct to the point. High Is are very social and outgoing. High S's are a little more quiet and reserved and really love support and steadiness. And high C's are your detail analytic folks. A high D answers are like, yeah, this is. A high I is like, yeah, hey, this is Robby. Who's this? A high S is going to be like, yeah, this is Robby. Who am I speaking to? Very kindly. And a high C is going to be like, yeah, this is Robby. Who am I speaking to? Full of skepticism. Y'all, going forward, the best salespeople I know mirror and match that person instantly. Here's what I would say next. Hey, Matt, it's Robby with Hatch Realty. Okay, I always have to identify myself in almost every state you need to so you don't get dinged. And I always take the most conservative point of view because the teams I coach and I was on are the whales, and the whales always get shot at, right? In their markets. But I would say, hey, this is Robby with Hatch Realty reaching out. Saw that you were checking out some homes on one of our websites. And Matt, I just wanted to see if you're just kind of looking for fun or to see if you plan on potentially making a move sometime soon. That is almost always the second question that I will ask. And you'll notice that that second question is almost always what I'm asking in some way, shape, or form. Now, here's what's really funny. I hear people say, well, oh my goodness, Robby, what are you doing? Why are you giving somebody an out? Why are you allowing them to tell you that they're just looking for fun? Why are you allowing them to say no? And what I know is when people ask that question, they don't understand psychology and they don't know how the mind works. You see, when we feel pressured to say yes, we are a lot more likely to say no. Chris Voss is one of my favorite authors that talks about this in the book, Never Split the Difference. He discusses and shares how giving people an option to say no and asking questions about what people don't want actually builds more credibility and helps you build more rapport. It helps you build more trust. It helps make the other person more comfortable. We're never comfortable when we feel trapped. Giving somebody that option to say no allows them to feel comfortable. And guess what happens to truth? Truth goes up. The likelihood that they actually tell you truth. And I don't know about you all, but that's all I care about. I've said that about 20 times already. The North Star of everything should be finding their truth. I don't want them to tell me bullshit. I don't want them to tell me that they're not looking to do something when they are. I don't want them to tell me they're looking to do something when they're not. I want truth. That's all that matters, because when you learn truth, it becomes so much easier to help people. It simplifies it. So I'm literally giving somebody an option to say no, which makes them more likely to say yes. But here's what's really funny, y'all. It also standardizes your responses. When people respond, they almost always say simply, yeah, I think about making a move, or no, I'm not really. I'm just looking for fun. Here's what's funny about this. I am not at all saying, y'all, that when somebody says that they're just looking for fun, I call that, and I would write this down, I call that a soft no. While we're on this, I'm going to give you the 5 different types of responses you're going to get from leads. Every time you ask somebody a question, you're going to get one of these 5 types of responses. You'll get a soft no, a fear-based no, a hard no, a yes, or a maybe. That's it. There you go. That is literally every outcome when you ask questions. Almost every single time is going to fall into a yes, maybe, soft no, a fear-based no, or a hard no. Here's what happens when you ask these people this, when they give you that soft no. They say, no, I'm just kind of looking for fun. Well, y'all, it's super easy. It doesn't mean I give up. They're giving me a soft no. When someone gives me a soft no, here's how I respond to it. I pay that answer very little attention. I give it very little acknowledgement. I'll acknowledge it, but I'm not going to agree with it. I'm going to say something like, okay, I hear you, but help me understand, what had you interested in homes in the first place? Or what had you looking at homes? Or what had you interested in homes? Something along those lines. In other words, here's the equation, y'all. The equation when somebody says, when they give you a soft no, your response is, number 1, acknowledge it. Don't agree with it. Don't even repeat it. Acknowledge it. Hey, I hear you. Or that makes sense. Keep it short and simple. Less is more. And then ask a motivation themed question. Well, what had you looking in the first place? Almost always what they're going to say is something like, well, we were thinking about getting a bigger home, but in this market with interest rates, there's just no way we're going to do it, which leads me to the fear-based no's. And here's what's really funny, y'all. The way you handle a fear-based no is the exact same as a soft no. You acknowledge their answer and ask a motivation themed question. Where I see so many people going wrong right now because there is more fear in the marketplace, although it's dissipated some, but it'll come back. It always does in some way, shape, or form. When there is fear, what we do is we fall into one of 3 really bad responses. I want you to write these down. These are 3 do nots, 3 hell no's. Do not do these. Number 1 is you believe them. When someone says, oh, we were thinking about getting a bigger home, but there's no way we're doing something right now because interest rates are too high, you believe them and you put them on a follow-up. Y'all, that's stupid. The second thing you do is you say, tell me more. All right, I love tell me more. We're going to learn about that in a moment. But when someone is giving you a fear-based no, a fear-based objection, essentially, when they are doing that, if you say, tell me more, what it actually does is create more fear. Again, if I had said, we're thinking about making a move, but I don't want to do something because interest rates are so high. And then I say, okay, well, tell me more about that. I think of all the supporting evidence in my mind, and that fear grows. It gets bigger. I manifest more of it. Not an effective strategy. Third response, y'all, this is going to be the one that most y'all are guilty of, is you start debating them. You start telling them, well, actually, interest rates are at a low, and you can be factually correct, but emotionally you're dead ass wrong. I'll say that one more time, y'all. You can be factually correct. You can be saying, you can be spitting fire, y'all, but they ain't listening because you haven't earned the right to be heard yet. You could be naming the exact facts, the facts that interest rates right now are actually still freaking pretty low. But if you haven't heard them, their wall is up. Why? Because they're afraid. So they actually think of all the supporting evidence of why you're wrong. And it's like a political debate. I don't know about you all, but most political debates are not based off of fact anymore. They are based off of what side of the aisle you are on, which is part of the biggest problem that we see in this country. But I digress. And what it really comes down to is it starts a debate, and that is one game you are going to lose. Very simply, what you need to do is acknowledge, hey, I appreciate you sharing that. Well, help me understand why you wanted to potentially make a move in the first place. The formula is simple. Acknowledge, ask a motivation question. Acknowledge, ask a motivation question. And here's what you're going to notice is when you start doing this, one of two things will happen very, very, very simply. Either they will give you a hard no, or they will become a yes or a yes when. That simple. They will either give you a hard no, or they'll become a yes or a yes when. Let's talk about if it becomes a hard no now. So we've gone through, somebody has given you a soft no, like I'm just looking for fun, or I'm not sure, or we're just kind of thinking about things. I'm just checking things out. Those are all the soft no's, right? Then you have the fear-based no, which is something along the lines of we're waiting for the market to crash. There's a lot going on right now. They might blame the president. They might say the recession word. It is clearly based in some form of fear or resistance. Number 3 is hard no. Hard no means that they are not doing something. Nope, I'm not doing anything until next year. And y'all, when someone gives you a very, very hard no after you've acknowledged and asked another motivation theme question, when someone gives you a hard no, the first thing that you should do is you should clarify it. So someone's like, I'm not doing anything. We just bought our house. I'm going to ask a clarifying question like, oh, super, super great. When did you move in? You notice that I'm sounding a lot more like a friend than a salesperson. So when someone says that, okay, got it. When did you move in? And here's what you'll notice, y'all, is some people will say that they just bought a house. And then you ask that question like, well, we just bought right before COVID. We just bought right after COVID. And what's really funny is that's not just moving in. You see, we all have different internal definitions of things. But we're going to be waiting a while. Okay, when you're saying wait a while, what do you mean by that? I'm going to clarify what the heck they just said. I'm going to seek clarity in that moment, especially when it refers to timeline. Second piece that I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge it. Challenge it does not mean we tell them that they're wrong. It does not mean that we tell them that they are stupid. It doesn't mean that they are stupid for not doing something. It doesn't mean that I'm telling them to do anything. And actually, if there's one thing you should take away that I have learned from the best salespeople I've ever met is they rarely tell people, if not never, they never tell people what to go and do. The best leaders don't go and tell people what to do. They help people self-discover what they want to do. They help self-discover it. They help that person realize it. And then they reflect that back. You should almost never be telling somebody what they're doing. What you should be doing is reflecting back and finding out what are the things that matter to you and how do you want to proceed. Y'all, this is how you build influence. You violate influence by telling somebody what to do. You gain massive influence by finding out what they want and asking them how they want to proceed. Just imagine this, right? Who's going to win in a conversation? And I say that tell somebody they should go and do this, or an I say that finds out this person wants to do this, this, and this. What do you think you should do next? The latter is going to win every single time. So challenging, y'all, is not telling them to do something. Challenging is giving an alternative that they maybe haven't considered yet. Here's what I mean by that. If somebody says we're not moving for a while, I'll say, hey, I totally understand that. Let's say that perfect home were to get listed sometime in the next year. Is that something you would consider viewing, or would you miss out on that opportunity? Challenging means asking a question and presenting an alternative that they maybe haven't considered yet. So when you get a hard no, you clarify and you challenge. Here's what's really cool about this. When this happens, and this is what I call a definitive no or a justified no. And with justified no's, one of two things should happen. You should either be following up or putting them on a not interested plan and not doing anything at all. That simple. When you get a hard no, like I just said, when we go through the process like we just did, what it really comes down to is now we can justify, we have a justified no. It's not a in the air, in a whim. They said one thing. It is a justified no. Let's keep moving here, y'all. Let's talk about scripting when people say that they are a maybe. Oh, we're thinking about making a move, or it's something that's on our radar. We're kind of thinking about it. First off, y'all, you'll notice that a lot of times people will intertwine maybes with a soft no or a emotional no. And what really great salespeople do is they ignore the resistance and they focus on the opportunity. I'll say that one more time. The greatest ISAs, lead converter salespeople I know, ignore the resistance or pay very, 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 very little attention to it, and they focus on the opportunities. Meaning when somebody says, well, we're not really thinking about making a move because interest rates are crazy, but we're just kind of getting a feel for what's in the market and seeing what's out there. I'm going to spend more time on the thinking what's out there as opposed to they're afraid of interest rates. Crappy salespeople focus on the resistance. Great salespeople focus on the opportunity. In one alternative, the person's leading away. In the other, they're leaning forward. So when people are given maybes, they're oftentimes paired with them. Focus on the maybe. What it really comes down to, when somebody says maybe, there's a very, very simple script that you should be utilizing, and it is simply some form of tell me more. Now, tell me more is not just tell me more about that. It's a mindset where you're saying things like help me understand, or just so I can see things from your perspective, or help enlighten me, or could you clarify this a little bit, or could you tell me a little bit more about that? There are so many different ways to say it. When somebody gives you a maybe, I'm going to say something like, so let's say they said something like, well, I'm just kind of seeing what's out there, checking on what's going on out there. I'll say, okay, got it. Well, what had you interested in real estate to begin with? Well, we were just wanting to see, if there's any investment opportunities. So that's like the maybe, right? I'll say, okay, I appreciate that. Tell me a little bit more. What do you mean when you say you're looking for an investment opportunity? So like literally phase one of this is tell me more about it. If you are a pro, you're going to be able to say that same thing 5 to 10 different ways. Enlighten me about that. Help me see from your perspective. What does that mean to you? Explain that a little bit further. These are all just simple ways of utilizing tell me more. And here's where people mess this up. Y'all ready for this? You will think you know what is motivating someone. You will think you understand what they're saying. I call this making assumptions. And this is the biggest sin of so many lead converters and salespeople, is we accidentally make and act on assumptions. These are not big assumptions, by the way. It's oftentimes the littlest darn things. For example, if somebody says that their family is on the grow, they're looking to get a bigger home. The lead says, I'm looking to get a bigger home because my family is on the grow. Or our family is growing. Our family is getting bigger. For 80% of you, your mind, when you hear that, says, baby is on the way. Remember earlier, I said your brain is a filter. Your brain is constantly making assumptions. And y'all, you can't stop that. It will consistently do it. It will always filter things out. It will always try taking a shortcut. It's how our brains work. It is both brilliant and stupid. But what you can do is you can start asking yourself something to put a pause button in, to limit the risk of making an assumption. Here's what I mean by this. When somebody says that they're looking to get a bigger home because their family's on the grow, the question that I would all beg you to ask yourself is, what does this actually mean? What does that actually mean? And when you sit down and you take a moment and you mentally ask yourself, what does that actually mean? Well, what does it actually mean when somebody says that they're looking to get a bigger home because their family's on the grow, my mind responds and says, dude, you have no clue. You have no freaking idea what that means. And what I've noticed is that when you all don't have an idea, we all inherently know what to do next. Ask a clarifying question. Ask, tell me more. What's so insane about this, y'all, is this is not at all complicated, but it's not easy either. Your brain is constantly doing this. There's little things that happen. When people say that their family's on the grow, here's how I hear people respond. They'll say, oh, congratulations. When's the baby due? Because their brain just heard them say that a baby's on the way. That's not what they just said. Or they'll say, oh, congratulations, or oh, that's great, right? I'll see this, right? The worst version is, oh, congratulations, when's the baby due? That's like full on 10 out of 10 assumption, you're screwed. If you say something like, oh, that's great, your family's growing, tell me a little bit about that. That doesn't sound like an assumption, but it is. Because y'all, we don't know if what they're going through is great. You see, what I've learned is to not speak in absolutes, positive or negatives, any of those things, those emotions. I'm not going to do it until I know with 90+% certainty, 99% certainty that what they're going through is positive. I would dare say that you want to limit that, because the moment you say, oh, that's great. What do you mean that your family's on the grow? And then they tell you that their father-in-law just passed away and mother-in-law's moving in. Man, you look like a jackass. Man, that person doesn't feel safe anymore. Man, that person, that credibility you had been building dissipates. And it is little tiny assumptions like this that I see so many people make. The best conversationalists, the ones that are the best at making people feel safe, they are constantly aware of the assumptions they're making. They're asking themselves, what does that actually mean? And they're not showing any form of emotion, positive or negative, until that other person has shown that emotion. There are so many times where people see people do this and they completely screw their conversations. The third and final way, right? I said the worst way you can handle this is, oh, great, when's baby due? The second is, oh, that's great. What do you mean your family's on the grow? The third and best way to do this is to say something like, oh, got it. And help me understand when you're saying that your family's growing, enlighten me. What does that actually mean? Non-judgmental, not assigning any emotion to it, flat, just staying in the middle. And y'all, if they say, oh, we're expecting twins, now you have permission to talk a little bit more about excitement. But what you'll see is about 1/5 of the time, they're going to bring up something that's heartbreaking, something that sucks. And I don't want you to miss out on those opportunities. Let's get to the final piece today, which is, or the final pathway here, which is when people say, yes, yeah, I want to make a move. First off, y'all, I actually think your best opportunities are going to say maybe, or they're going to give you an emotional no, or they're going to give you a soft no or hard no at first. Your best opportunities will probably be one of the four. If they say yes right away, usually they're desperate. That is a red flag to me. Not saying every time, but if someone just comes out of the gate, it's usually because they're a little bit desperate, and they're usually desperate for a reason. So I would totally, in this case, when people say yes, it's the same thing with maybes. It's tell me more, help me understand. And I would highly recommend going at least 5 deep into motivation and other things to understand simply this. The number one thing I think matters in your phone calls, especially when it comes to learning their truth, is you want to find out what they have and where they want to go and why is there a difference. You want to find out what is it they're running from and what are they running towards. It's how human beings are almost always psychologically thinking. What are they running towards or running from, or the combination of both? What are the feelings that they're having about this? If you can find out why, y'all, it's easy to understand the what's. If you know all the what's, it doesn't mean you know why. And a why is far more important than all the what's in the worlds. All right, so we've talked about what do we do in the beginning. With property inquiry leads, my intro script is going to be basically the same, but I'm going to say something along the lines of, hey, I got your inquiry about 123 Main Street. I just wanted to see if you're just checking that place out for fun or to see if you plan on potentially making a move sometime soon. So same thing, going down the same pathways that we just all talked about. With expireds, because if you're not chasing expireds right now, you are missing out on free money, y'all, because there's a lot of JV agents that are listing homes and then those contracts are expiring. That is free money, y'all. With expireds, my opening question is almost always something along the lines of, hey, I saw that your home recently came off the market, and I just wanted to reach out and see if you're still hoping to sell your home sometime soon. Here's what I know about expireds, y'all, is they're usually a little pissed off. They're usually annoyed. They're usually angry because 1, they didn't sell their house. 2, the communication with their prior agent sucked. And 3, they're getting 30 phone calls and texts from other agents and they're getting annoyed. So first off, you should always make sure to follow up on day 2 if you don't get a hold of them. I think you should all be treating expired leads just like any other lead. I mean, hell, if I said, hey, I'm going to give you a list of sellers that tried listing their home with somebody else and didn't have success, you would pay me stupid money for it. And it costs you the big, bold cost of nothing. Start chasing your expireds. With that being said, your goal is not to sell them. Your goal is to find out the pain points. I try to turn my expired calls into a counseling session. Why? Because the number one thing I know when people are pissed off is they want to vent, and I want to get them to open up. I want them to vent. I want to find out everything that they were pissed off about. Again, you should be learning this. The best salespeople I know lean in to what the other people are saying. We are asking questions and going down pathways. If somebody's pissed off, I want to find out why. And what's really cool with expireds, if you can find out all the reasons, all the frustrations that they just went through, it becomes easy to earn their business. Where a lot of you will violate this is you'll go down this pathway and somebody will say, well, my prior agent's communication was miserable. And you'll say, well, we prioritize communication. And y'all, you're actually invalidating yourself. If you're telling somebody you're good at something, you're almost always invalidating yourself. Stop it. Don't say it. Do it. Just listen to them. Ask more questions. If someone says something like, well, man, the communication with my prior agent sucked, I'm going to say, well, tell me about that. What the heck happened? Or dang, that's really frustrating. Tell me about that. What's going on or what happened? Get them to continue to open up. Keep going deeper, y'all. This is how you build influence with people. And this game is an influence game, period. Now let's talk about a few more things. You heard in my scripts a couple different things earlier. Tell me more is a core component. Challenging. I want to name one big thing, though, that I'm consistently doing in calls. It's known as rephrasing and reflecting. I can't take any credit for this. I am 1,000,000% ripping off and duplicating this from Stephen Covey. If you want to learn more about this, go read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He has a whole pillar. One of his habits is seek first to understand, then be understood. It is one of the best chapters that shaped my mindset surrounding conversations. Hands down, well worth your, probably get the book at a thrift store for like 99 cents. Your ROI on that thing's going to be stupid. Anyways, rephrasing and reflecting, outside me telling you to go and read it, my shorthand version is simply this. Rephrasing means when people tell you things, you say it back in your own words. This does not mean repeating it. Little caution here. Do not rephrase. When people say hard or soft no's or emotional based no's, again, just acknowledge that you heard them say something and then ask your next question. Do not rephrase it back to them. But when people, if you ever want to buy yourself time, if you ever need to, you can literally rephrase things back to them. So if someone went on a long rant about what they're looking to do, Rephrase a key point or two out of it. All right, so you want to get a bigger house because you're feeling really cramped in your home. Help me understand that a little bit better is a really good example of rephrasing. Reflecting means that you're naming the emotion that they have stated or you're sensing. This one basically comes down to this, is that when it comes to emotions, people always either state them or it's implied. Emotion is tied with them wanting to do something. Emotions are either implied or stated. If I say I'm really pissed off with my prior agent, that's a stated emotion. If I say I never heard from my agent, the marketing was really terrible, it is implied that I'm frustrated. I think one of the most magical things that you can do when you're sensing emotion is that you take a stab at it, you reflect it back. Something like, man, Matt, if I were in your shoes, I'd be pretty frustrated. Now, there is a risk in this. There's a risk that you could potentially be wrong. They might not be frustrated. They might be disappointed. But as long as you're not 90 degrees off or 180 degrees off, for example, if I say, it sounds like you're really excited or you're really happy about your prior agent, I come across as a condescending asshole. Rather, if you're close and you're a few degrees off, they do the simple thing, y'all. They correct you. And now you have moved a implied emotion to a stated emotion. And y'all, logic makes us think. Emotion makes us act. My big goal in anything that I do is I'm trying to find out what is the problem they're trying to solve and what are the feelings they have about it. Because logic makes us think and emotion makes us act. So I'm trying to find out those things. What are they running from, running towards? One of the simplest ways, one of the best ways you can show somebody, make them feel safe and comfortable and make it feel like everything's about them, because it should be. Your conversation shouldn't be about you. I asked Matt this yesterday in the recording of our podcast episode. How often do you ever talk about you or your team? And he works for one of the best teams, if not the best team in all of Denver. And he said, almost never. Even if people ask and they ask questions about their team, he doesn't take it as an opportunity to try to sell himself. He takes it as an opportunity to find out what are the things that matters to them about the team they work with. If you're talking, you're almost always selling. If you're dominating the majority of these conversations, I guarantee your lead conversion is trash. The best lead converters I know are not sellers. They're not talkers. They're listeners. They're asking really great questions. They're helping people self-identify. And by doing so, they're learning people's truth. Then they learn that truth and they can reflect it back by doing so. When they reflect that truth back, that person's motivated to take action. And y'all, you can get these people to do some crazy, crazy, crazy things. All right, we have a few minutes left here. So to recap, I think the best script in the book, when somebody's saying yes or maybe, is tell me more. The best framework for a script when somebody is giving you a soft no or a fear-based no is acknowledge and ask another motivation-themed question, something like, well, what had you looking in the first place? Or what had you interested in real estate? Or use their own words, y'all. Again, rephrasing and reflecting. With hard no's, you want to clarify it. One of my favorite questions to ask, another question, another script for you all is, when you're saying you want to be in a house June 1st of next year, does that mean you want to be in the home or do you want to start the process? You're like, man, that sounds like a dumb question. I'm saying, no. Your assumptions are dumb, y'all. Stop making assumptions. Start asking questions. Seek out clarity. All right, y'all. Those are the best scripts in real estate that I want to make sure to share with you. If you want more, if you want to learn more and bring this to the next level, first off, reach out to me. I'm always here for you. In the follow-up email, we're going to be offering 50% off our lead conversion bundle, y'all. 50% off. And basically I have 47 lessons in one class in there. There's 5 classes total. The classes are the ultimate guide to lead conversion, how to text leads, build an ISA department, mastering marketing, a high producing agent. You get a little bit of me, a little bit of Eric in there as well. Check it out. That will be in the email. The promo code will simply be Scripps50 since you guys chose to invest an hour with us today. If there's anything that we could do to bring value to your lives, let us know. But hopefully you took a few takeaways. If you're looking for coaching, training, lead conversion stuff, hit me up. Email me at robbyt@hatchcoaching.com. We're here for you. Much love, y'all. Get out there, do good, learn people's truth, speak truth, and show people love, y'all. Appreciate you. Bye-bye. If I can find that button. There we go.